To that end, right, as I said, I did try to be a bit, you know, self-critical, right, because I'm aware that I'm being an unreasonable prick, right, I get it. They're not that bad. There's far worse bands in the world. I don't begrudge them success or anything. It's not like, oh, you think you're big shots coming from Scotland, and there is a bit of that in Scotland sometimes, but it's not that.
Tall poppy.
Like, it's something else, and I can't quite put my finger on it. And I think it's because certainly where they started from, I related so much to it. The bands they were citing are bands that I grew up, they were really important to me. And at least at around about the same time that my band was starting, these guys had been together for a few years, and we were kind of along the same kind of lines. And so obviously on one hand there's a fair bit of jealousy, envy, like, would I fucking love to have been like the biggest band in the country, of course, to some extent. But then I think in order for that to happen, they had to make certain decisions and they had to make certain changes, and those sort of inform why I just can't be fucking doing with it, right? So I tried to pick it apart a wee bit, and feel free to shoot me down, but the way I'd try and articulate it is, like, first and foremost, I don't understand, as I said, why bands that get to the stage where they're playing like a Wembley arena need to somehow then try and grab more land. Why, when you're at the stage playing Wembley arena, what year was that they did that?
I'll tell you.
2008, I think it's 2009.
Right, so you're talking just after it's between Puzzle and the year that Only Revolutions came out, right?
2011, sorry, 2011.
So after Only Revolutions then, right? And you're still sounding like a rock band. You're still sounding like a big rock band with some credibility. And as I said, you've probably just released your 2 best songs on that previous album. Why, with the likes of moving on into Opposites and Ellipsis, do you feel the need to compromise your sound even fucking more? This whole, like, suddenly, like, producers come in. Why weaken the product? Is it really that important to expand your audience and your market from there? Is there really that much more that you need to get that it justifies giving up on something that you'd worked so long to sort of foster and create, and all that credibility that, at least in the eyes of a lot of people, especially their fan base, that they had? Now they're at the point with Ellipsis where they're alienating that fan base by blatantly being overproduced and fucking corny. It just reminds me of business in general. You get businesses that get so big but they're never satisfied. There's like an insatiability to big business that seems to be, no matter what you conquer, you never get someone going, oh, that's fucking, we're doing great, man, let's just stop there, let's not buy any more premises, let's just keep it there and keep turning over all this money, keep the product quality high, keep it reliable, make people, like, not that you can't change it, you know, if you're a fucking fast food chain, alter your menu and that, but why keep expanding? Why keep trying to burst into new areas and overextending?
I mean, 20 years is a long fucking time, though. You know, like, to be in a band.
But that's the point. Like, if you get to a level after, like, what, 2005, like, so after 15 years, if you're at the stage where you're almost playing Wembley Stadium, fuck's sake, man, be fucking happy with that. Why do you then need to go and fucking get into bed with the producers just to make this shitty, watered down music? There's something so greedy, like, and insecure about that. It kind of speaks to like a sort of like a hollowness, like a loss of meaning in the music they're making. It's like, what are we making this music for? Well, we're making it to succeed, so we have to keep making more music to succeed even more. It's not about the quality or the meaning or the depth or the nobility of the art that they were making. I really fucking hate that about it, because there was a point between Puzzle and Only Revolutions where I would have fucking recanted and be like, man, to be fair, man, they've put out some really fucking good songs in the last few years, like hats off to that. But they didn't. They fucking like went back down the other side. Comments like the one about pop music being there, it's like, that is so fucking vapid and transparent. Pop music's where the real, like, edginess is. It clearly fucking isn't. And I think, you know, reading about, for example, Simon Neil talking about how he, like, idolised Kurt Cobain growing up, you completely missed the fucking point in Nirvana, mate. Like, you completely missed it. Yeah, Kurt Cobain wanted to be big, absolutely, but he also didn't want the trappings with it. And the band were big despite their behaviour, not because of their behaviour, not because of their fucking arena rock shows. The band were big and sort of at every opportunity tried to sort of do little bits and bobs to sabotage it. Going on,
Nirvana were really subversive, and Biffy have never been like that outwardly, kind of thing, you know.
And I know they've never really said they were going to do that either, so I don't want to judge them on my own standards, but at the same time, I feel bad for a generation of kids seeing Biffy as like this great white hope of alternative rock music, but then they just fail to deliver any real substance. They deliver like vaguely poetic lyrics and a lot of angst for these fucking multi-millionaires now, and they deliver big light shows and they always take their tops off and they have tattoos and, You know, it's like they deliver a lot of like the superficial parts of it.
I got to admit, I quite like the Taps A thing. It's bringing a wee bit of Scotland to the rest of the world, you know.
But they just don't deliver on the substance, for what I can see, and I can't fucking get with that.
Do you think that's why they're still relevant now, though, because of the way it's changed, and like you say, working with bigger producers and making it a bit more?
They're not relevant though. They're just big. That's the thing. They're not relevant. What are they relevant to? They're just a big money-making band now. They're like Foo Fighters. They're like, it's big rock music with no particular substance.
Every band copy, well, not every band, but loads of bands copy them. We can go to the night and see like 4 bands at least that copy them. Do you know?
But that's the thing. Copying a band is different from being inspired by like the originality of a band. So if you say a band like Radiohead is still relevant, because Radiohead, you don't know what the fuck they're going to do next. And
do you consider Biffy original? Like they're in their style of music?
I think for a while it looked like they were going to be. I certainly think around about Infinity Land it looked like this is a band that might try and break the mainstream whilst doing it on their own terms and bringing mathy post-hardcore stuff into it, and do like maybe even like the way At the Drive-In seemed to on Relationships of Command, and that's a different story obviously, but you know, there are ways to do it without completely compromising the substance, but then they just seem to fucking back away for that and go for this bigger and bigger and bigger take and the bigger and bigger and bigger stage. It's like, why do you need to?
I think,
why do you need to do that?
Like, in terms of taking influence from like originality, a lot of people won't do that. I don't think bands or musicians have to do that. They might take away great songs. Like, that's why Oasis is such a huge influence. We're not original by any stretch of the imagination.
You know what though, I'm sorry, I actually disagree with that, man. I think Oasis in a lot of ways are very inspiring for folk, because Oasis Oasis are one of the last breakout working class bands. Like, music has stopped being working class,
but nobody goes there original.
What?
Nobody, like, the point I'm trying to make is like
they rip off the Beatles.
The point I'm trying to make is like, you said that a lot of people like aren't looking at Biffy like originality and taking away from that because it's not there anymore, which is totally fine. You can be influenced by stuff which is just good tunes. Do you know what I mean? And Oasis are a good example of that, which is what I was saying.
I think the thing is, there's more to a band than just the sounds they're making. I think you can be original in different ways. I think, you know, like different aspects of what they're bringing to the table. You know, but Oasis, fuck man, I don't fucking want to listen to Oasis, but goddamn, the amount of young working class people that still are like, there is a chance for me to not have to get a job in the fucking garage or whatever because I'm good at guitar, and it's still possible to be good at something and succeed. Like, you can represent that, and sometimes that's probably even more important.
I think I totally agree with that, but the point I'm trying to make is like, not everybody sees that. They don't see it like the originality aspect of it. They just see something they want to replicate, whether that is Ellipsis, you know what I mean, whether that is the stuff which definitely isn't as interesting as the older stuff, but it's because they're bigger bands, arguably more influential. Do you know what I mean? Originality, for a lot of people who are influenced by that kind of music, it's probably not even part of the conversation they have, because not everybody thinks about music in the same way that we do.
That's true.
I mean? I consider Biffy original mostly on the guitar playing style. It's quite being a free piece kind of thing. Like, the way he plays guitar is quite weird at times, and then obviously singing at the same time. One of those probably affects the other kind of thing, and that's where choices will be. I've
no doubt as well that Biffy Clyro's success has influenced like the sales of bands like Braid and stuff, and it's probably introduced a lot of people to this whole world of like post-hardcore and emo and stuff, like real emo, you know, that they would never have maybe discovered otherwise, like Sunny Day Real Estate, for example, bands like that. I think that's admirable, but they failed to build upon that. From a certain point. It was like, oh, we've done this and that. I mean, as you know, I don't think the first 3 albums are anything special, you know, but that is just purely a matter of opinion and probably a fair bit of sour grapes from my perspective, right? And I'm totally happy to acknowledge that. I don't think they're outstanding, but I think they clearly showed they had something special in the tank, which, by the way, I don't think a lot of folk assumed that they did. I think like the songs that came out, especially on Only Revolution, surprised even me. I didn't think they had the ability to write songs as good as the likes of Bubbles and Mountains and things like that. So that showed that they actually, maybe I was wrong. Maybe they did have this potential. But it feels like such a missed opportunity, you know. And another thing, I know this is maybe a wee bit churlish, but Crag, you know, you've done a fair bit of promoting stuff, man, and you can maybe use your better judgment as well. Do you think that Biffy Clyro are contractually obliged to take their shirts off?
No, I think it's just their part kind of thing. It's like, it's a very Scottish thing, and
see, given that it's such a key part of their look, though, right? So, see if you went to a Rammstein show and they decided they weren't going to do pyro that night, the promoter would be fucking furious. It'd probably be
I
default.
like it. There's a wee frong in my heart that gets a bit proud. It's like, fucking your ass taps it off. You know what I mean? But But
do
you think they're obligated to do it? Like, do you think if they did a show where they all kept a fucking jumper on, and the audience were like, what the fuck? There's like 30,000 people in here, and you're fucking just standing with your fucking jumpers on. We expect you shirtless and jumping about. Like, what? This, I know it probably isn't the case, but what I'm trying to say is the absurdity of things that get that big, and things like the shirtlessness becoming cliched. Once the industry gets its hold,
but they're the only band doing that. It's not like there's.
But that's the thing. It's almost like a trademark now.
Their wee thing.
Are they allowed not to do it? And that's what I mean. You know that this fucking thing is bloated when it's actually at a point where you're like, I don't know if they wouldn't get a row if they didn't take their tops off. I'm not saying they'd be in default of contract necessarily, but certainly they'd be like, fuck was that all about? You not enjoy it?
Yeah, there's another wee side to that as well about, you know, talking about the albums. There's definitely two sides to Biffy Clyro kind of thing. You can see where that change came as well. But another thing to know is that when Simon Neil became a fucking pin-up, you know what I mean?
Oh, fuck, I know.
It became a fucking sex symbol kind of thing.
And again, these guys could be totally lovely, and fucking all of us are guilty of it at times, and I know great people, male and female, who are incredibly vain, but they come across as incredibly fucking vain. Yeah. There's a lot of ego in this band. There's no fucking getting away from that. Honestly, it's such a spectacle, and like the posed nature of it again feels like the apple has fallen so far from the tree of bands like Nirvana, even bands like Weezer, the bands that switched them on in the first place. Like, you can't imagine those bands like fucking doing half of the fucking modelly shit that these guys are doing now. And I think it's sad that a generation possibly could have had a band that brought not the sound of those older bands, because they've obviously changed their sound, but at least the sort of sincerity of those older bands. But they opted not to. They've just become like they were vaguely inventive in their songwriting, but now they're just this totally non-threatening arena rock band, and like the anti-Nirvana. Like, I just think that's sad, man. It's like it pisses me off. You know, it feels like so much alt rock filler now, when it had all this potential to become something really groundbreaking. It's just degenerated. Like I said, the Foo Fighters Snow Patrol thing, it's just, there are points in some of the later albums with the songs, yeah, it's a different voice, but ultimately the structures, the chords, the flow of the song, the tempo, the production, you're just like, man, this just sounds like MOR. I mean, am I wrong? Am I just being like pure blinkered by my fucking loathing?
No, like, big bands have to be big bands, you know what I mean? It's not like you're saying get off the pot kind of thing. It's not like there's another band just like waiting to step into their shoes. The band that's going to step into their shoes is going to be another fucking MOR stadium rock band, you know?
Doesn't make it all right.
You're not going to like either.
But I know, but we're talking about Biffy Clyro, and they chose to do that. You're right, it would be someone else, but at the same time, we're not talking about the concept, we're talking about a specific band. And they made that choice and they went along with that, and they clearly had the ability to write stuff that was edgy and also sell out stadiums. Like you said, they were writing big singles that weren't in 4/4 and doing things that were vaguely interesting and nuanced. They didn't have, I don't mean they didn't have to change their music, but they certainly didn't have to become more and more diluted and lowest common denominator for there, which is what they've done.
I think it's probably a lot of it's got to do with like the economic concerns as well. Like, it's their job now, do you know what I mean? It's the only thing they do for a living.
Mate, you're not telling me they were struggling to pay the gas bill when they were selling out Wembley.
That's not what I'm going to say. I was actually going to say the opposite of that. I think once you become like, it's like, for example, if you're used to living on like £35,000 a year, right, and suddenly you get made redundant and the next job you take has to be 21, you're going to have to cut fucking back your lifestyle. It could be a case of that as well. It's like you just don't want to change things because they like making the money they make and doing something they enjoy at the same time.
But my point is, they could have got to a sustainable point and tried to maintain that, rather than this constant corporate expansionism that seems to be the tone with bands like Foo Fighters, bands like Queens of the Stone Age as well. Like, corporate expansionism. We've got success, we need to water this product down and get it to more and more and more mouths, even if those mouths have a less discerning palate. And if there's things too spicy for them, then let's water it down some more and let's get it to more mouths, and just expand and expand and expand till you've got something so dilute that you probably alienate your original core base by this time you've picked up so many fucking drugs along the way that it doesn't matter, because you've just got this big mulch of people out there just fucking swallowing your shit.
Yeah.
Nice monologue.
I'm fucking tired.
One thing I also want to say, particularly with regards to Ellipsis, is I wonder if there's maybe a bit of burnout as well on having to get more kind of production help in there, because
Cry Me a River.
Like, they wrote a lot of songs in their fucking career, man, and they wrote probably double as much for
they get paid to write.
Yeah, but
fucking songs.
I'm not defending that at all. I'm just saying, like, maybe the reason the quality has kind of dropped is because of that, you know, or maybe the reason that it feels a lot more standards is because they don't have the capacity to actually write this stuff that they're contractually obliged to write.
And another thing, in like 2005, we played with Marmaduke Duke, and we were doing alright, and we sound checked, and then we nipped out to get food because we weren't given food in the rider. When we came back in, the gig was sold out. They wouldn't let us backstage to our changing room because the band were backstage with some girls. So we had to stand at the end of the bar and try and eat our dinner, and the owner of the bar was fucking yelling at us the whole time, get that fucking food out of here. And we were like, we'd love to, but the band won't let us use any of the backstage area because they're back there entertaining with their fucking fans. So, yes.
I wouldn't let you in my dressing room either.
I'm better.
So it's been an hour and 20 minutes. Do you want to talk about the record?
Actually, no. But I mean, Bodies in Flight. The screams in this are shit. I don't like the guys screaming stuff. It really doesn't work for me. I kind of feel like
a lot of the screaming's got the distortion pedal on it, kind of thing.
Yeah,
and it's that doesn't age very well.
Yeah,
it's kind of shit I was doing playing in metal bands and all the rest of it. You know, it's like,
I think unless it's produced tactfully, that can really grow old. Yeah,
it also shows that you can do it to the power and with a grit that you kind of need to if you're going to try and do screaming stuff, which is probably why they don't do it anymore.
It's not terrible, but it doesn't set me on fire. The Ideal Height, the second track.
Find the ideal height. How well do you think that you know me? I'll tell you now, I didn't even mean it. Circumstance predicts.
I think actually the backing vocals in this one are the first time where you get hints that this band might have some pop thoughts, and it's kind of cool. You're like, and they've got some promise. They've got some stuff bubbling under there that has some kind of like ambitions of, you know, accessibility. That's pretty cool.
It's a single. So,
I don't think the tune's awesome.
This is one of the tamer ones as well. This is more like you might find it on Black and Sky, but it's a bit more poppier.
The timings on it are good though. I think they did a good job of breaking up the kind of conventionality of it.
'Cause everyone has a purpose, even the minions. But we'll scratch away to find the ideal height.
With a Plum is just textbook bland Scottish alt rock. Like, there was so fucking much of that kind of rock at that time.
These hands blow dry, but I can handle it again. These words.
And I really feel like the orchestration is like putting lipstick in a pig.
What do you think, Crag?
I don't mind this song at all. It's not my favourite song on the album. I like hearing the orchestration in there, just because that was another string to the bow, excuse the pun, I guess, that they didn't have before, really.
I didn't even realise the pun until you said excuse the pun, but
yeah, like you said, with the vocal thing in the last song, it belies that ambition of trying to keep one eye on what you might do if you had a lot more money. Yeah,
the good vocal switching in there as well is something I really liked, but yeah, that's when you get hints of what's to come later. I think starting with this song, Bodies in Flight, Ideal Height, is strange choices to open the album as well. I think.
Yeah.
I think Ideal Height was a single.
It was a second single. And Bodies in Flight isn't, just to go back to that as well, is interesting because it's completely different from Black and Sky. So you can see them setting up shop and going, by the way, we're going for another ride here, but we're going somewhere completely different.
And I think they went drop D on that as well. So they were they kind of dropped it for that heavier kind of tone as well.
One thing that annoys me about Simon New's guitar tone is that it never sounds heavy enough if it want to be heavy.
There's actually cards on the table. I know the guys, and I had the twins at my house in Melbourne there for their birthday just 6 months ago or something. And
fuck man, they're not going to be returning your calls.
Until I know after you.
Right, guys, this was completely my idea, right? So Crag did say just fucking toe the line, and I refused.
But they were talking about back in the day. I toured with them on this album as well. That was back in those days, and I think I made a comment to Simon about his guitar wasn't heavy enough, kind of thing. And it's like metal zone or whatever kind of thing. I was playing in metal bands at the time, and that was like playing in drop C and stuff like that. You know, he's like, I'll fucking tell you what's heavy, but apparently it's always stuck with him to be like, well, you know, that fucking wee dick, tell me it wasn't heavy enough.
A Day Of.
One of my favourite songs on the record, actually.
That's my favourite.
Yeah.
It's about taking mushies.
I won't read my notes then. I just like, it's just, this stuff is like pure 10 a penny. It didn't work for me at all. Again, touring and gigging and putting on shows at this time, Scotland was fucking chock-a-block with this kind of music, and it was much of a muchness.
They were probably at that time, they were the band with the biggest record deal as well. So putting this out, for a lot of people who just heard the band, this is like, holy shit, what is this? Yeah, it definitely was around a lot then. Even I was like 18, and I remember it being around then, and I wasn't particularly into the scene that much.
Fucking every
song, like the guitars at the end of this song, where it kind of raises that kind of octave thing, like I love it. Sets me off at that time. I don't know how old I was, kind of thing, probably 18, 19 or something like that, and I was like, yeah, that just sets me off like a kip.
I'm not feeling it, but Liberate the Illiterate.
Among the Mingers.
With the second part of the title now removed from Spotify.
Yeah, Among the Mingers. They did have a couple of like wee moments with totally politically incorrect things that haven't aged well in this progressive era that we now live in.
Yeah.
There's a couple of nice wee guitar lines in this tune actually, but the bass tones are fucking rank.
Is that the... Remind me, is that the one with the call and response bass and guitar?
It's got a kind of A-team kind of doing it.
Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about.
The bass tone jumps about, and you can tell it's been recorded in like different takes.
Yeah, totally.
And it's so fucking uneven and fucking.
You can tell it's like they've maybe not used a click track.
I don't. It just doesn't marry. It just like it sounds like it's jumping between takes and not in a like a natural way.
I can see what they're going with the bass. I can see exactly what they're going for with the bass tone there, but they just don't achieve it. I just don't think they had the gear, the budget to actually achieve like the proper like thick fuzzy.
Do you want to talk about that as well? You did the research on the album as well, like, so a thing to note is that they did 16 tracks in one day.
Yeah, I mean that's actually we should have kind of preempted it with that, because 16 tracks in one day is fucking astonishing.
It is astonishing, yeah, absolutely astonishing.
Yeah, and
what's the producer called again? Chris
Sheldon.
And his back catalogue is outrageous, like the stuff that he's worked on. So
Boys Big Country worked for them. Gun. Therapy, Anthrax.
Did you say Gun?
Anthrax, The Vandals, 100 Reasons. Yeah, a lot of stuff, man.
Yeah, I mean, they were in capable hands, but regardless of that, recording that much music in a day is fucking incredible. I would absolutely give them that. No, clearly there was a lot of overdubbing, especially with orchestration, but
that came in later. It's the guy from Therapy did that, wasn't it? Yeah.
Wait a second, right? It says on Wikipedia it was recorded in 2002, 2003 in 3 different studios.
Well, that would be the overdubbing.
Yeah.
So I mean, they laid down the basic tracks. So I think.
Yeah, I remember. I was on tour with them, staying at the Beggar's Flat when they went away and did this, and I was like, "Oh, what you done today?" It's like, went and did the album. I was like, "Aye, is that it?"
Yeah, just a day.
No, I mean,
pretty mental.
So all of these digs I'm having, I do intend to kind of roll up in admiration of like, but fucking hell, this is a snapshot album.
Yeah, they were so hard working back then.
Yeah.
You know, all those tours we were doing, we were bands like Cooper Temple Claws and
those guys,
In Me and all these kind of things.
Those guys,
and it was in that.
In Me, that's the thing though. In Me are that much of a muchness alt rock.
This was still in that NME era.
Totally.
They were putting on, like, NME were putting on tours, you know, like going around the unis and all that kind of thing. And Biffy were very much a part of that scene as well.
Yeah,
but they're super hard working and really did it on a budget. This was like,
oh yeah, absolutely,
transit van. Me and Stevie Broadfoot. Big shout out to Stevie Broadfoot, who passed away sadly. He was their tour manager. I worked as a bouncer at King Tut's. He was my boss, and we went to uni together. And he's like, "Do you want to come on tour?" And that's how I met Biffy. kind of thing, you know. But yeah, Stevie Broadfoot, shout out to him.
Yeah, man,
He was a legend.
that is definitely something that deserves more credit, I think. You know that.
Yeah, I mean, the entire analysis of this record has to come in that context of like, fucking hell, these guys battered most of this down in a day. That was a long fucking day as well.
Yeah, and you can, it does feel loose. It's quite lo-fi, you know, like there's not a lot of production value
But
there.
you spoke about it earlier on. That actually makes you feel closer to it. So for all that I'm not blown away by a lot of the actual individual songs, the album has a personability, a sense of immediacy, and a sense of cohesion, because it was all done within such a small time frame, that makes it like a real proper glimpse thing. And I don't want to show my hand here, but
again, this is a long album as well. This is
too long.
It's like
It's the second longest record. The only one that's longer is Opposites, which is not even that much longer.
It's
than
getting, to be fair though, it's hindered by a fucking massively long last song.
Yeah, it's 8 minutes or something.
Yeah.
We'll get to that.
Diary of Always, track 6 on it. I actually really like that vocal intro they do, the multiple harmonised vocal things.
Yeah.
Wish we all could betray. I just 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 wish.
Really innovative, and it showed, again, much to my frustration, that this is a band that had a lot of fucking good ideas and a lot of, like, yes, they were assimilating these ideas from loads of other good bands, as every band does, but they had the potential to do things that would open the minds of people that then listen to them. And I feel like, fuck man, that's so good, and it frustrates me no end that they didn't do that sort of thing more often.
Yeah, it's got that gives hints to where they would probably finally become, you know.
Yeah,
the
I mean,
more
as with
balladic
that
moments kind of
vocal
thing,
bit on Ideal Height, you can hear pop sensibilities in there.
Get a bit of Mogwai in this song as well.
I don't think you can come from Scotland and not have a bit of Mogwai, man. There's such a fucking massive overarching influence.
And speaking of other Scottish bands that are overarching influences, Questions and Answers sounds like Idlewild.
Grab a handle, twist it to something drops. You're up when you win.
It does, yeah. That's
Well, funnily enough, I've got a mixture of Sebadoh and Seafood, and that's exactly what Idlewild sound like. It's a mixture of Sebadoh and Seafood. Seafood were a London-based band who may appear on the show at some point, who were a really fucking charming, very imperfect little like alternative indie band who could get a bit squawky and screamy and Sonic Youthy, but also would do like really sweet country-ish kind of indie stuff. This has a lot of the ingredients of that, and they were kind of peers at that time and working on Beggars and stuff like that as well.
I think this is a really weird song on the album.
You've got all these great answers to all these great questions. Still I feel them passing me by. You've got all these great answers to all these great questions. Still I feel them passing.
This is like the pop single or something like that.
Absolutely.
I think
Yeah.
the song elevates them. I think this is, when you look back at that album, even though there's other songs that people know, this is the one that stands out as being like showing that they had another gear.
Yeah, it's not one of my favourites in the album at all. It's got real nice hook in it. I love the harmonies that come in, but I guess it just wasn't heavy enough for me at the time.
I think if you're an A&R guy and you're thinking this band's got a bit of support, you listen to this and you go, yeah, they'll definitely be open to being moulded a wee bit, because they've got the potential to condense things and trim things down, and that song sort of, I think, is evidence of that.
Do you think the deal maybe came on this record and then they were told do another album, then come?
Puzzle was 3 years after
Yeah.
the next album, so I don't know. And the fact that Puzzle had the Beggars logo on it initially as well, I'm not sure. I suspect there's something a bit more complicated going on there, man. I'm not sure what that is. I think maybe that, like I tried to hint at, that Zane Lowe appearance with the Franz Ferdinand cover, a band on Beggars getting a live lounge slot, getting a really big cover of another band to then get shared about.
Another Scottish band as well.
Yeah, that could have been, I think, they had promise with these albums, and I think what might have turned the heads of Warner
What's that wee thing?
was that sudden like Radio 1 endorsement and all that kind of stuff. I think that's probably more likely. Eradicated Doubt.
You are the summer, I'll feel forever.
Interesting guitar on it.
It was also a single.
But I think
Was it a single? Eh?
Yeah.
I think unfortunately they seem to do that let's step in the distortion pedal thing a bit too much in terms of it being a solution for where is a song going to go.
A Nirvana dynamic almost.
Nah.
Yeah, no, I mean, but like the whole like loud, quiet dynamic thing is a whole staple of that.
Yeah, but not in
music.
place of a hook.
Yeah.
Like, you know, when Nirvana stepped on a fucking distortion pedal, it was usually a big chorus, you know. The chorus hints at kind of epic ideas in this one, kind of hints at some big
the loud,
things.
quiet dynamic. You mean that's pretty much a marker of this album. Like there's a lot of that quiet, loud, and then Simon's guitar playing, like we talked about, that's quite weird, and amongst those spots as well.
I do think the guitar stuff in this song really helps it. I should also say that like quiet, loud thing, Nirvana took that for Pixies, so it wasn't like a Nirvana thing. When the Factions.
Been up for days, waking up, devised a plan, little darling.
Which to me just sounds like a bit of Jawbox, who I'm guessing they probably listen to.
Yeah, when in fact that's a good song, man. I like that song a lot.
It's alright, it sounds like Jawbox, and Jawbox
I like
are really
Jawbox,
good.
so.
Yeah, but it doesn't sound like the best Jawbox tune.
Yeah, it's quite fun though. You know, the way you know, that kind
Yeah,
of
it's
stuff. You know,
some cool ideas, isn't it?
Just you can feels fun to me. You know, not taking themselves too seriously.
Toys, 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 Choke, Toys, Toys, Toys.
My favourite song on the album.
So this was like a split A-side with a track from their previous album
Joy's
originally,
Invention,
wasn't it? Yeah. And I think it sounds more akin to the first album as a result. It's obviously like a bridger. I don't mind it.
In the shadows of your eyes, you look like God.
I'm not huge in it. What is it that totally butters your
There's
crumpets?
that bit with the where you let the guitar ring out, and it's just a snare going.
Yeah.
It fucking sets me off. Love
Yeah.
it. Aye.
Okay, All the Way Down.
Find your way home. Have you found your way? Have you found your way home? Have you found your way?
So beige.
Yeah.
So fucking beige. I have a real problem as well with falsetto Scots accents. Like, we do it a lot. It's got it back and round. Really fucking does me in, because I had spent so many years trying to EQ and get monitor levels for bands that would go from screaming to doing shitty wee Scottish falsettos, and just the
It's a
monitor
headache,
and you're like, yeah, get some fucking mic discipline, mate.
Yeah, totally.
So I think this just brings back bad memories.
Listen, I remember saying earlier on about the drummer singing kind of thing. This, you really hear him singing on this.
Yeah, he's got a pure gruff voice as well, so it's like completely different to Simon's.
Yeah, completely. And you hear that coming in, it's like Michael Bolton or something like that, you know?
It's not gruff, husky, like kind of husky voice. It's like that. Yeah,
He's got a great voice, but would this band work if he was a singer? I don't know if it would be unique enough. I think he's got a contemporary voice.
Yeah, I think it would probably be. They probably would be more like, I don't know, like probably like a sort of emo post-hardcore band if he was singing, like, as opposed to the weird kind of alt rock thing that became.
Number 12, A Man of His Appalling Posture.
Conglomerate inspection will breed that infection, release it to the world. We'll blame it on the girls.
I thought this was the one that had to do with like a phone number or something like that with the timings. I could be way wrong. If I'm way wrong, somebody put me right. I don't really care enough about this band to get it right, but I think I picked that up somewhere. It's interesting. I think it's one of the better tracks. I like the mathiness of it.
It's pretty short and sharp as well.
Yeah, it doesn't fuck about too long.
Yeah, gets in and gets out and gets the job done.
And I feel, as I say, I feel this album's like a little bit long. Okay, we're going to talk about the last track, which is Now the Action is on Fire, which I think is long. It's kind of boring. think the tones sound pretty cheap in this tune, like they rushed it a wee bit, albeit you've been recording all day, maybe you would.
Do you think maybe it's so long was they were just like, let's just get through this, and maybe it's longer than it should have been, kind of thing? 'Cause it's kind of a song in 3 parts kind of thing.
Feels unworked, this tune, and I'm just not fussed about it at all.
And over and over and over and over and take all I have and under and under and under and under and over and over and over and over and
I actually believe this could have been, with a bit more brevity, this could have been a pretty outstanding record. Like, I think there's enough good stuff on it that they could have clipped out 3 of these tunes and had a really strong 10-track album. Like, wow, holy shit, their second album is really, really good.
Up until Ellipsis, you could probably say that for all the records, to be honest.
Let's stop saying Ellipsis. Right, it's had way too much fucking airtime. That's how they get you. They make you say it because it's bad, because any publicity is good publicity, Mark, and the more we talk about it, the more we encourage people to go and listen to Biffy Clyro's shitty 7th album, Ellipsis.
Don't listen to that record, kids.
Right. And I think you've talked about it as well, but I think the thing we were chatting about before as well is like, how did this band on this record become
that band?
You know, the biggest band in Europe?
That's the fucking biggest question over this entire band, is like, what was it about this fairly humble, interesting alternative rock band making okay albums, in my opinion? I know some people love them, that's fine, we can disagree, certainly didn't hate them, to make this jump up to this fucking arena act.
It would be definitely graft, obviously, is a huge part of it, because nobody worked harder than these guys did at the start. Probably even now, to be honest. And then being in the right place at the right time. I'm pretty sure that they were in a room somewhere just with the right guy at Warner Bros. Going, these guys could do the thing. And
I mean, once they were on Warner, it's clear once you start seeing some of those tours that they were getting put on, the agent, the booking agents, the management, the label themselves were pulling a lot of levers for them. And as I said,
they've had the same crew the whole time as well. Same.
No, but they did not have the same label backing them.
No,
See, to get on a Muse, a Rolling Stones, to get on those kind of tours, it takes fucking connections, man.
Muse are a fucking interesting parallel as well, because they do some weird stuff and they can be heavy at times as well. And
Muse are another weird band that I don't understand how they got to where they got
Muse's first tour was supporting the Chili Peppers across the States. Some of these A&R guys, they must just see something and be like, how can that go from, you know, museum kind of thing up to now this mad prog fucking...
I'm not so sure about that. I think it's a really fucking, like, throw enough shit at the wall and see what sticks, because how many big shows have we been to and we could not name the support band? It's just every so often one of them takes. I mean, I went to see Tool. I couldn't tell you who supported Tool twice. Now that is like a dream ticket if you're a fucking young proggy metal alternative band. Almost every band I've ever seen with Tool, I can't tell you who the fuck it was. So yeah, we remember Muse in hindsight and we'd go, wow, they did that tour. Or Biffy Clyro, wow, they did that tour. But, you know, it's not because of the tour, but certainly the constant exposure, the constant, like, elevation in the esteem of the people around you, even just the bluff factor of getting on the radio, of DJs getting right behind you, guys up in Scotland like Vic Galloway and Jim Galloway at the time, who I think was the first guy to ever play them on radio.
Really?
Like, these guys were well on side pretty early on, because this is one of the bands from the country that was doing things and they had accessible, fairly radio friendly music. And so you start to acquire a critical mass in this one territory, and it just sort of goes from there. They are a puzzle to me, excuse the pun, but I think there had to come a point where it was impressed upon them, if you want to go to this next stage, you're going to have to start making compromises. I doubt that was an entirely obvious thing for them musically.
One of the things you touched on earlier on was talking about fans of this band have to dig a bit deeper into their influences and peers as well.
Yeah.
Even their big stuff as well, that they're doing stuff that's really quite unusual, mostly in the time signatures and all that as well. If I'm thinking about like kids nowadays, you know, who are into Biffy and then they have to go back to the back catalogue, this is why this is important, you know, because it's night and day between them, and I like the feeling that someone's going to get into something a bit more interesting because of this, you know. Feels nice.
I mean, if I'm to cut to the chase, from my perspective, I'm actually going to say, yeah, I think this should go on. And that is loaded with so many caveats, because I've spent most of this telling you why I think they're such a fucking pain in my hole. But the fact this was recorded in such a short period of time, the fact it's such a true snapshot of a moment in their career, I think that almost the context of the album is far, far, far more interesting and impressive than the album itself. Even things down to like the artwork and the fact that it sort of, some people were shaking their heads and tutting. And
that was a weird choice as well. Italian artist Milo Manara.
Yeah,
he did all the single covers as well.
Vaguely provocative, sort of sexualized, vaguely misogynistic, but not really. You know, just like
weird choice. Like, aesthetically, it's pleasing, but it doesn't say anything about the album. It doesn't say anything about the band.
Doesn't
either.
Even feel particularly akin to the band. I think there's just an oddness to this album that I think is worth putting in. Even if you took all the music off the fucking album, I think there's enough going on around the band, the context of the band, the time frame, the amount of work, the work ethic, the sense of like that core support, that Mon the Biffy crowd that you get up here.
I imagine most of the core Biffy audience nowadays probably don't even know this album particularly well.
The majority of them at least would have been finding it out working backwards. They certainly wouldn't have known about it. And I doubt it really marries with their sense of what Biffy is if you've grown up listening to them in arenas and you're trying to go back to when they were doing these weird songs in clubs. So yeah, put it in for that sense. I'm not for a minute saying it should go in based on the sheer quality of its music, so I really don't think it justifies
turn up
it.
for the books.
Yeah, well, I mean, I remember when this record came out, and all my pals were Biffy Clyro fans.
All my fans.
I wish I had
check the ego in that.
What do fans feel like? I don't know.
I've heard about you.
But a lot of my friends were Biffy Clyro fans, and this is when it started, right? This is when the Biffy Clyro we know begun. I mean, Black in the Sky, whatever. This is when they started to become the band that we know as Biffy Clyro. And I think the context, like you just described, Chris, is super important around this as well, because for better or worse, they've changed the landscape of Scottish music. Probably much the same way I imagine Oasis did for English music.
In the same way as a McDonald's changes the landscape in the outskirts of town.
And the landscape of your stomach. But yeah, I think I would want to put this in because it's their best record. It's probably their most interesting record. And
you think
I
it's
think
the best
Infinity
one, yeah?
Land's more interesting.
I think I listened to Infinity Land obviously thinking we're doing that, and
Their best record's Only Revolutions, and the most interesting record's Infinity Land. But this is the most interesting snapshot of something. I think
Infinity Land is too weird for weird's sake. So I'm glad that
I don't think it's a great.
Do you think either Infinity Land or this could come out today and have any kind of cut through?
I think this
absolutely
could,
not.
to a small extent, maybe not on the same level. I
don't even think those albums could come out in 1994 and have any impact. They had to come out just long enough after the first wave of that stuff to capitalise upon ears that hadn't heard it before. I think that's a big part.
Yeah, and coming out then, internet wasn't massive then. I guess iPhones and stuff.
I think they are also the product of the circumstances, and that's why I think the circumstances in the case of this album are almost more important than the album itself.
I think this record could come out today and make some kind of impact, but it would not sound this way because it would just record it in a bedroom, and it would sound significantly better because of the leaps in technology and stuff like that.
Or maybe they just not bother, and then I could have listened to something else today and I'd be watching the football right now.
Oh well. But for me, I would put it in because it's probably their most important record as well, more than anything else. Right,
there you go, Biffy, you bastards. Right, you've got your fucking record in despite all my bitching.
I'll see what your listeners think. You know,
Crag, exactly. Successful, at least from this side of the fence. But it'll be interesting to see if people are behind you. I think this will be a very divisive one in the threads. Yeah, it'll be fascinating to see all the different.
Yeah.
See, like I've got a kind of personal connection to it, kind of thing, and it's like I just find it so like we said ad nauseum this time. It's like I just find it so weird that this then became like what they are now. Like,
I think
I can't get my head around it.
Bizarre, really, really strange. So, Crag, did you do a Nexus?
Aye. Very, very briefly. So it's going to be
That's
a Mark.
Alright, man, it's your first time.
A Mark style one.
Yep.
Even if it's over really quickly, we'll tell you it was good.
If I had time, I'll try and get some terrorism in there or whatever.
Well, Crag's preparing himself because it's his first time. The name pulled out the hat this week was, funnily enough, The Man With No Name.
Mm-hmm.
That was suggested by Alessandra Sorrentino from Turin.
Yep.
And The Man With No Name is a star of Fistful of Dollars, Few Dollars More, The Good, the Bad and the Ugly.
The protagonist of those Sergio Leone films, yeah.
Well, the protagonist, sorry, yeah. Played by Clint Eastwood,
yep.
In case you're wondering. Since it is your first time though, Mark, do you want to go first?
Yeah, so my laptop's died, so I'm just in this from memory, so it might be slightly inaccurate. I apologise.
Right, okay.
So the orchestration on the Biffy Clyro albums Puzzle and Only Revolutions, and I believe Opposites as well, was done by David Campbell, who is the dad of Beck. That's not the link, but it's just a fun
The
thing.
Scientologist guy.
Yeah, they're both Scientologists, yeah. David Campbell he actually did the score for the film Days of Thunder.
Fuck off.
Directed by...
No way.
Yeah, directed by Tony Scott.
Boy.
Yeah, in that film is the classic kind of 70s, 60s, 70s like character actor Robert Duvall, who also starred in a film a Western film in 1973 with Clint Eastwood called Joe Kid.
Robert Duvall, was he not also in Unforgiven?
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Brilliant.
Double whammy.
Job done. Craig, you want to go next?
I had no time to prepare for this, and I've not been to bed in a while. So I just remembered Biffy done a cover of Love and Sex and Magic featuring Justin Timberlake, and Justin Timberlake was in the movie.
But Justin Timberlake wasn't in the Biffy cover, but he was in the original. Is that right?
Kiara or something like that, yeah. And Justin Timberlake was in a movie with Clint Eastwood called Trouble with the Curve, and he was a man with no name.
That's Mark-esque.
That's a very, I wish I had more time
briefer than mine.
Alright, well,
cut it out.
I'll take up the slack. Biffy Clyro is a band.
Is that it?
And
they've seen a film with Clint Eastwood in it, and they go, done.
In one of the many occasions that they went viral when a fella called Nick Knowles was on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. Nick Knowles is like a BBC handyman.
DIY SOS, mate.
Yep, from the show DIY SOS.
If you want a wee greet, that's a show to watch.
Many others as well. One called Home is Where the Art Is, where he helped people commission individual bits of art. Nick Knowles has released an album on Universal known as Every Kind of People, and he claims the deal was offered to him after he was seen jamming on a rooftop in Soho with the guys with Biffy Clyro.
What?
Yep, true.
The most rock star story you can imagine.
On the album Every Kind of People, Nick Knowles covered the song Here Comes the Sun.
Here comes the sun, dun, dun, dun. Here comes the sun. I say it's alright.
By a little known British metal band called the Beatles, which featured a guy called John Lennon. John Lennon had a wife called Yoko Ono. Yoko Ono once bought a blade of grass from Salvador Dali for $10,000 after she had actually asked Salvador Dali if she could buy, I think it was one of his moustache hairs or his little mini beard hairs. And he said, yeah, sure, I'll sell you a moustache hair for $10,000. He got one of his assistants to go and find a dry blade of grass, put it in a box and sent it to Yoko Ono and kept the money, because that's how Salvador Dali fucking rolled. Right, Salvador Dali has got some absolutely amazing
legend,
amazing facts about him. You know, Chupa Chups lollies.
Aye.
The logo for Chupa Chups was designed by Salvador Dali.
Fuck's sake.
That is mental. They still use it. Like, true fucking fact. Salvador Dali believed he was the living reincarnation of his dead brother. His brother died exactly 9 months before Salvador Dali was born, which also means, by the way, that his parents were shagging either the day his brother died or just shortly after. So
mechanics involved,
that's one way to deal with the grief. Salvador Dali was obsessed with cauliflower. Yeah, partly because of the golden ratio. You know, the spirals, fractals and stuff, but also just because he loved the taste of cauliflower, and he made some comments like everything comes down to cauliflower, something like that. Salvador Dali once created a hologram of and with Alice Cooper, and they were apparently pals, and Alice Cooper, after the project was done, was like, man, I love it, can I keep it? And Salvador Dali apparently laughed and went, of course not, this thing's worth millions. And Alice Cooper was like, yeah, Salvador Dali, I loved him, but you could never tell when he was being serious and when he wasn't.
He's just a pattern merchant.
And my favourite story about Salvador Dali, which again I've probably said in the podcast in the past, but I don't give a shit, because unless people have listened to every episode, they've probably not heard it. Salvador Dali, towards the end of his life, he loved being the fucking main man about town. He loved throwing parties and big meals and stuff like that, and he couldn't afford it. And so he used to go around like Catalonia and that kind of area of Spain, throwing these huge fucking banquets in restaurants, and then at the end of the meal he would write a check, but then in the back of the check he would sketch the owner of the restaurant, and the original Salvador Dali sketch on the back of the check was worth so much more than the actual cost of the meal that Salvador Dali just racked up this massive debt writing these checks and then drawing the owners on the back of the checks. And if you went round Catalonia in the northeast of Spain, you would see all these checks framed in these restaurants because he didn't have to pay for any meals. That was his MO. Anyway, there's a famous guy who changed his name to Charles Salvador, and he changed his name to Charles Salvador in honour of Salvador Dali. He had also previously been known as Charlie Al-Ahmed. His birth name was Michael Gordon Peterson, but the name we know him best by is Charles Bronson.
Oh.
And I'm talking crazy mad prisoner Charlie Bronson, played by what's his name?
Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy in the movie. Mad fucking Raj that will never get out of jail because he keeps punching and biting guards the day that they're taking him to get his stuff. Who also, by the way, Charlie Bronson published an exercise book called Solitary Fitness.
Yep. It's all about calisthenics,
how to
stuff like
work
that,
out in a fucking tiny little concrete room. Charlie Bronson is named after Charles Bronson, the American actor. Death Wish, Murphy's Law. Also played the character Harmonica in Once Upon a Time in the West. By the way, Charles Bronson's original name was Charles Buczynski. He's actually Lithuanian, not American. He changed it. Once Upon a Time in the West, well, scored by Ennio Morricone. Clear another spaghetti western, but probably the most interesting link from that is that Charles Bronson actually turned down the role of the man with no name that Clint Eastwood later took.
Wow. So there you have it.
And that's a fucking nexus, guys.
That's 3nexi for us.
Crag, it's been a fucking joy having you here, man. I'm really glad we were able to do this.
Thanks,
even though I hated listening to Biffy Clyro, and I'm really looking forward to deleting everything off of my fucking MP3 player,
Chris still has an MP3 player, guys.
It's because it fucking stops me being distracted. It doesn't take calls.
That's why you need to donate to the podcast.
Yes, please. I need a bigger MP3 player. To be fair, it's 8 gig. That's not getting me anywhere. There are bands that we've covered. I mean, Parliament's more than 8 gig. It's a full by share. But yeah, so next week we'll be doing Parliament, and that's all been discussed already, and that's history, guys. But I want to say huge thanks to Crag for doing this.
Thank you.
For flying from Australia just to do this podcast.
Yeah, that's commitment, isn't it?
The proviso was always that we come to your place, but your place is far too far away. So.
Good luck with that.
And we've discussed it's not all it's cracked up to be.
Yeah.
Although they do good coffee.
I mean, if we keep getting a lot of money, then we can maybe get flights to come over to see you. But that's a way down the line.
And heads up again to David and his family. Hope everyone's good. He'll be back next week. Yeah, thanks for listening. Thanks for dropping by. I hope that was a nuanced enough explanation of why every time I hear the name Biffy Clyro, I want to jump out a window.
Well, thanks, guys.
Oh, thanks for having me. Cheers.
No, you can't.